Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about the day that I got clean from drugs and alcohol. I'm happy to say that that was almost 2 years ago. I got clean on May 8th, 2023 from a severe crack cocaine and alcohol addiction. I'm not proud of my addiction, but I certainly am proud of getting clean. I'll never forget that day. I was not expecting to get clean. I was expecting it to be a day like every other day was. I went to bed the night before, or the morning before, I should say, when I ran out of drugs. I fully planned on waking up the next morning and planned on starting my day by making money to get some more drugs. And I remember waking up and going to the bathroom and looking in the mirror, and I couldn't recognize myself. I completely couldn't see who was looking back at me, because it certainly wasn't me. It didn't look anything like me. I was scared to death. I didn't know what to do. I was just completely shaken. And I remember looking for my cell phone all over the place, frantically looking for my cell phone. This was an emergency. I couldn't verify myself in the mirror. I didn't know who that was looking back at me. That person looking in the mirror was not me. It was not me looking back at me. That couldn't be me. That didn't look anything like me. I was unrecognizable to myself. So there I was, frantically looking all over the place for my cell phone. I finally found it, and I looked up an emergency number for a detox that I had stored in my phone. I called the number. I had called the number before, and I went through the whole admission process, and I told them I was tired, and I told them that I was lonely, and I told them that I couldn't recognize myself, and I told them that I needed help. And guys, I really needed help. I really needed to find myself again. I really needed to be able to see me again. I remember I got off the phone. I had scheduled a pickup for 2 o'clock that afternoon. That was about 3 hours away. I had to pack. I had to get ready to leave. I was scared. I didn't know if I was really going to go, but I knew I was really going to go. I thought that was the only choice I had. I went back to the mirror and looked again, and I wasn't there. That couldn't be me. It just didn't, it wasn't me. It looked nothing like me. So I packed my clothes, and as I packed my clothes and got ready to leave, I just remembered thinking that this was it. This time I really had to do it. I had been to rehab before, oh my gosh, like a dozen times. But those times I wasn't done. See, I was one of those people that would go to rehab because I was tired, because I wanted a break, because I was hungry and I didn't have any food in my house and I didn't have any way of getting food. I always went to rehab but knew I wasn't done. I always knew that I was going to use again. I just needed to take a break and kind of have a vacation. And going to rehab, I knew I had a roof over my head. I had 3 meals in my belly. I had people that I could talk to and hang out with. But this time it was different. I wasn't going to rehab planning my next use. I had had my last use the night before. I was going to rehab planning the rest of my life. I was going to rehab to find myself because I didn't know where I was and I was scared. So I packed my clothes. I packed some beads. I packed some coloring stuff, some journals. I packed some books, the typical stuff. Made sure I had my phone numbers. And off I went. And as we drove to a place that I hadn't been to before, this place was new. It was the only place they could get me into. I knew that no matter what the place looked like, no matter what the accommodations were, I had to make it work. I had to make it work because I had to find myself. It's the scariest feeling in the world to look in a mirror and not recognize the person looking back at you. You see, couldn't recognize the person that I had become. My everyday schedule was something out of a movie. That couldn't have been my life. That wasn't the life that was intended for me. You see, my everyday life was, I would wake up in the morning. There was no coffee to be made because there was no food in my house. So there certainly wasn't any coffee. Every penny that I got was spent on drugs. Alcohol I just stole. But I had to make money. Most of the time I did that by stealing from stores, boosting. I'm not proud of that. It's just the truth. I didn't drive. I didn't have a car. I had to take the bus to the store, to the pawn shop, to a store, to a pawn shop, to the dealer, back to my apartment. It took all day. All day. It was like having a job. It was my job. Using drugs was my job. No. Getting drugs was my job. Using drugs was my reward. And at the end, it wasn't much of a reward. Geeking and tweaking, looking out windows, thinking people were coming to get me, swearing to God that I would never do it again. I didn't even enjoy it. My life was a mess. It was just a mess. But on May 8th, 2023, I took control. And I called that emergency number. So now I'm in the van, on my way to the place that I don't know. But I know that if I stay there, I have a chance. So I stayed. I stayed at that detox for 3 days. Three days to get the alcohol out of my system. To stop shaking. 3 days of drinking coffee, sitting in a hallway with other people that were doing the same thing as me, trying to get their life back, trying to figure out why they were doing what they were doing. I knew why I was doing what I was doing. I was just covering up my pain. My pain of missing my kids. What I didn't realize was that using drugs wasn't going to get me any closer to my kids. It might have covered up the pain, but it wasn't going to make them magically appear in front of me. So I stayed. I stayed at that detox and then went to a place called Maxwell Hall. Maxwell Hall was a co-ed, inpatient, not rehab, but they call it like an 820. It's a residential place. So you live there, you don't leave, you can't go outside, you can't just come and go as you please, you can't leave without a staff member. You're in there. It's kind of like extended rehab. It's 90 days to 120 days or longer. I stayed about a month and a half at that place. It's a long, we were on the 5th floor. It's a long hallway. We'd have class during the day, and then we hung out in the hallway. Colored, made bracelets, played cards. We recovered. We learned to do things without using drugs and alcohol. We learned how to have fun without drugs and alcohol. We learned how to cope without drugs and alcohol. We talked about hard stuff. We talked about life. We got real. I spent a lot of time in my room by myself. I remember I put up pictures. I never put up pictures. I never did that when I went anywhere. There weren't pictures in my house. There weren't pictures on my phone. There weren't pictures anywhere. But I had brought pictures from home that were tucked away, and I put them up on my wall of my 4 kids, pictures of my friends, pictures of my mom, pictures of my dad. They were reminders of why I needed to get clean. Reminders of who I was doing this for. Pictures of myself with my hair done and my makeup done, looking good. They were all over. And I would just sit on my bed and look at my pictures and write in my journal and just write about what I wanted my life to be, what I didn't want my life to be, what I deserved. And slowly I started feeling a little better. It took a while. It certainly wasn't an instant thing. But slowly, morning by morning, when I would wake up and I would look in the mirror, I started to see Lynn again. She was coming back. And it was a wonderful thing. I learned a lot at Maxwell Hall. I stayed there a while. I wish I would have stayed longer. But that's how I got clean.